I give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck? Why do I try so hard? Why do I care so much?
Welcome to Why Do I Give a Fuck? A cross-cultural conversation between myself, Diane Tate,
and Johanna Thompson. In these times of great struggle and possible shift, we ask ourselves,
why do we give a fuck about any of it? How does the lens we see the world through impact what we see?
And what do we do about it?
So what are we talking about today? What are we talking about? What's going on?
Well, we were just, when we come on these calls and we try to decide, I think about this all the time, like, what are we going to talk about? And I always have so many things swirling around in my head based on what's happening in the world and in this country and in this government and all the things that it's like I always feel stuck. There's so much to talk about, and it feels like, so I was sharing with you about, just in a very small nutshell, what was happening in the latest Freedom Flotilla that tried to make its way to Gaza to break the siege on the boat called the Handala. And there were, I think, 20 something activists on the boat. Chris Smalls, who is the only person that I have heard of. I think he's the only person that has established a union in Amazon, within the country of Amazon. I mean, the company of Amazon. So I know you've probably heard of him, Chris Smalls, and that work. And so he was on the Handala. He was the only Black person on the Handala. And there were reports, he just got released yesterday from Israeli prison. They were captured. The Handala was commandeered by the Israeli soldiers, the IOF, in international waters. So it was an illegal action to begin with, because they're not allowed to just board boats because they want to, but they did the Handala, as they did with Medellin before it. And took all of the folks that were on the boat into custody, into Israeli territory in the prisons. And Chris Smalls and one other person were just released yesterday. So they were kept for, I think it's 5 days now. And the reports are that Chris was the only one that was beaten. He was kicked, he was beaten, he was treated grossly inhumanely. All of them were, but he was, being the only Black person on the boat, the only Black man. It raises the question of why would he be the one that would be targeted? Why?
No, it doesn't.
It's a rhetorical question.
It does not raise no questions.
It's a rhetorical question.
No, it doesn't.
And anyway, so I was just relaying that to you, and how that was kind of up for me in my mind, and you came up with a term that I had not heard before. So
Terrifying. I've come up with no terms.
But you shared a term with me.
I shared a term with you.
Shared a term with me.
And there is a terminology here on the island, splitting justice, right? And
Okay.
So splitting justice is when you're not equally fair to people the same way, but you're partial to whom it is that you want to give justice. And that's the reality of the way that I have experienced growing up in the United States territory, that splitting justice is a very, very real experience that people have. And that is, like, we kind of talked about it in one of our podcasts when we were talking about people who have economic resources when they're going through the justice system and how they're able to maneuver. And we even said ourselves that we don't call it a justice system because justice kind of implies that there is going to be kind of this equal measure of how to hold people accountable, or to, in the United States justice system, to do some retributive justice, actually, on when somebody causes harm to somebody else. But the splitting justice is really this partiality towards how you are going to deal with and take care, or not take care of, but deal with somebody and deal with their accountability. And it sounds like Mr. Smalls was harmed violently, that he was targeted, having darker skin. I have no idea what race relations look like in Palestine, like racial identity relations, because
I don't think it's terribly dissimilar from what it is happening here.
But I'm also talking about, like, there is a raciality. There's a distinction that we can tell by the way that people look. And other than, and I'm just thinking about my knowledge space of people who are in Palestine, be it in the Muslim faith beliefs or be it like Israeli. How do we say this? All of people look alike to me. So so let me just, do you know what I mean? Like everyone, I don't see a diaspora of color that would preclude that there is some like racial identity to be able to think about it in the same way that we think about it in the United States. Anybody who is not like white skin identified, could be targeted in whatever community that they're in, specifically in the United States. And on Palestine, everyone seems to be the same hue of their skin complexion.
That's not what I've been learning. Yeah, that's not what I've been learning. I mean,
Okay.
I think, and I think one of the issues that I've been learning about with the designation of Israel, the occupied Palestine, what I prefer to refer to it as, is that the majority of Israelis, or the Israelis that settled and that took that land, were European Ashkenazi Jews, which are going to be tend to be more white passing in terms of, just hue of skin color. But
Okay.
there are Israelis of color. There are black and brown Israelis that I've been learning about more. I mean, never been to Israel, never been to occupied Palestine myself. So this is all just secondhand information that I've been gleaning. Certainly the Palestinians that are living in Gaza, that have been segregated into Gaza and have been segregated in the West Bank, tend to be more black and brown presenting. So there is a,
That's
huh?
black and brown presenting to whom?
Well, to the people that are
I
oppressing
didn't mean
them, for sure.
to throw you off.
Do I?
I didn't mean to throw you off, but I'm hearing that that people of Israel I'm trying to figure out what it is that would be the identifier, because yes, European skin hue, but folks is all in my vision. Folks are all kind of like tan brown. I mean tan white. But everybody is white skinned. If any of them people came here to Jamaica, they would all be considered whites.
Interesting. Okay. I
But I
totally
mean,
understand what
that's
you're
why I'm
saying
like,
now. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm definitely seeing it through a white lens, but I'm also seeing it through a US lens in terms of how we identify. I appreciate that clarification. How we identify people that would be considered white as they walk into a room. And this is a conversation that I've had with Jewish people here in the US who often seem to want to stand in this "I'm not white," which then allows them to, well, not allows, then often puts them in a place of feeling oppressed. I'm not white. I'm like, let me give an example because I'm stumbling on my words. So when I was living in Charleston, South Carolina, and the Tree of Life massacre, the mass shooting at the Tree of Life synagogue happened. Of course, Charleston is where the Mother Emanuel shooting happened in 2015, and there were all sorts of vigils and comings together and gatherings to mourn the loss of those 9 souls and that kind of thing. And then fast forward to when the Tree of Life happened, I went to a vigil in the center of Charleston, just down the street from Mother Emanuel, to honor the victims of the Tree of Life synagogue massacre. And the first thing I observed were how many people that were there that I never saw at any of the vigils for the Mother Emanuel victims. That was number one. Number two, I was holding a
Split
sign.
justice. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, split justice,
Split
right?
justice.
So then I was holding a sign that said something to the equivalent of, "This isn't about," I don't remember exactly what the wording was, but essentially it was saying that this was about allowing white people, because there was a white man that did the shooting, allowing white men to have unfettered access to guns, was the shtick of my sign. And I had several people before the vigil started come up to me and angrily say that my sign was wrong, because they wanted it to be about the fact that they were Jewish, that they were the persecuted ones, and that they were the ones that were being murdered. And that wasn't the point of the sign. At the time we were having lots of, conversations. I don't remember exactly what year it was. It was pre-COVID. But we were having lots of conversations about, the demographic of the people that tend to do these shootings and their access to guns. So, but I thought it was so interesting that not only so many of those people didn't bother to show up for Mother Emanuel, but they then wanted to stand on this, we're the persecuted ones because we're Jewish. I don't mean to be minimizing for anyone that's listening that might be of Jewish faith, it's just it's a tug, it's a pull, right? And so I realize that I'm seeing this through a white lens, where in the US, where, anybody that's might be Jewish but has the same kind of physical hue as myself, when they walk into a room, they enjoy white privilege, whether they're Jewish or not. and but I guess I'm acknowledging that I've had pushback from Jewish people before who have said, no, we're Jewish, so therefore we're persecuted just like other marginalized communities. And it's a tricky one for sure.
It is a tricky one, and especially when you sit outside of holding whatever identifier somebody holds.
Right.
What I mean? Because I have had conversations with people of Jewish faith who do feel persecuted because they can be very Anglican, white presenting until somebody finds out they're Jewish.
And
in workplace, in whatever structure, United States structure that they're falling in. And then when they find out they're Jewish, there is this stigma that's attached. There is this othering that is attached to being of Jewish faith. So that is an experience that I acknowledge, that people are having. And in that, not knowing what that feels like to begin with white privilege until you really allow people to know who and what it is that is your faith base and again, that's splitting justice. That does speak to this white Anglo-Christian ideology that is the undergird of how the United States exists. Though we know that the United States is a melting pot of people, belief, ethnicity from all over the world. But the split justice is that if you fall into what's not the status quo, but is what is the perceived status quo of this like white Anglican destiny, then you're outside of that and you are marginalized and persecuted just because the institutions and structures are set up to support and uplift that specific identity in the United States. And that's what I'm experiencing, even though I'm not on the land in the same way, but I'm experiencing they're trying to return to that being the standard status quo. So you can exist in the United States having some other identities and experience persecution. Your persecution levels are going to be according to what your proximity to that white Anglo-Christian existence is. And the closer you are to that. So even if you are a person of Jewish faith, but white presenting, it is going to get you in the door. And then you might be uncomfortable and struggle or work twice as hard to prove yourself to meet standard. And that is when we're talking about this understanding of splitting justice, it is that you are supporting and favoring a specific group of people over and hearing. I wanted to go back and for you to give an explanation of when you're talking about the next freedom boats, because people might not listen to before, but what's happening with people going over to stop the siege?
So I think there have been two, but there may have been maybe one more. They're calling themselves the Freedom Flotilla, and they're boats that are carrying nothing. They have no arms on them whatsoever. They have nothing except baby formula, diapers, just, whatever they can fit. That it's not a big boat, It looks like a sailboat, maybe 50 feet or something, 60 feet. I don't know exactly what the dimensions of the boat are, but it's not large. And they usually take off from places like Malta and other places, and they sail to Gaza with the intention of, multiple intentions, not only to try to get there and distribute the food and the resources that they are bringing with them, which is only as much as they can fit on the boat, but also to raise awareness of the siege and to continue to raise it's often people that are activists, well-known. Greta Thunberg was on the last boat, the Mandalene, that was also, commandeered, and the people were abducted into Israel from international waters, which is itself wrong, is itself a war crime. You're not supposed to commandeer a boat in international waters, but Israel has done that at least twice. And so this is an ongoing campaign to raise awareness. The more high profile people that are on the boat, the more exposure the action gets. It's a concept of direct action, but their hope is that they would get to Gaza and be able to distribute the food, but that hasn't happened yet. They keep getting commandeered in international waters. So I'm sure there will probably be another sailing behind that. I don't know who will be on it. It was interesting to me. It seems like they made a conscious choice this time that when the Magdalene got commandeered and the people that were on that boat were abducted by the IOF and taken into Israeli custody, more of them, it felt like, signed an agreement right away and allowed them to be deported out of Israel and sent basically back to their countries of origin. It seemed like there were more of the folks on the flotilla this time on the Handala that had maybe made an agreement to not sign those agreements immediately, to stay in custody, to raise the awareness. And it felt like there were more United States citizens on the boat this time than there were last time. And I'm wondering if that was also intentional.
There's
But
been national delegation.
yes, international delegations from several different countries, European countries as well as others. And, Chris Smalls is from New Jersey. So in the past few days that he was being held in the Israeli prisons, being harmed, there have been many, many campaigns, call writing, phone calling, and email writing campaigns to Senator Cory Booker and the senators and the representatives from New Jersey specifically, and crickets from Cory Booker. I mean,
Oh,
he just recently got all of this fanfare for standing on the Senate floor for however, broke some record or something with his filibustering and talking about all the things. And then one of his constituents is arrested and commandeered and abducted and beaten by the IOF, and he doesn't say a word because he's so deeply in the Israeli pocket. So it had multiple levels of raising awareness. This, from at least from my perspective, with this particular flotilla. So we'll see when the next boat, wouldn't it be wonderful if all of the countries that were represented by these activists would send maybe 10 boats each, and it was actually a flotilla, not just
okay.
one boat at a time. Wouldn't that be amazing? And I saw a video of humans from Egypt who were filling water bottles with rice and beans and lentils and all kinds of things and throwing them into the ocean. And some of them made it to Gaza, and some of the Gazans actually got those bottles and were able to cook those beans. I mean, it's just insane the amount of disgusting things that are happening right now around the forced starvation and I saw a video of an American soldier who was
Mm.
having a conversation with one of our senators. He was just recently over there, supposedly as part of this humanitarian aid push that has just happened in the past couple of weeks. And so there are American soldiers that are at these aid sites, and he is testifying that he was told by an Israeli soldier that he was supposed to snipe children who were at the aid center and wouldn't leave when they were told by the IOF was in his ear saying, get those children out of there, get those children out of there. And then he spoke in Hebrew to one of his fellow soldiers, or maybe his commander, and said that they wanted him to kill the children. And this particular officer didn't speak Hebrew, so he didn't know what he said, but another of his cohorts did. And he just said he wants you to kill. So now he's back in the United States and he's testifying that
Mm.
that this is what's being asked for. It's unbelievable to me how hard they have to work to get people to believe that this is what's happening when we can see it all with our eyeballs. So
Yeah.
so
I
anyway.
mean, and it's who it is that we are favoring,
Right.
right? Like, and identifying like whose justice
Yeah.
is the standard with which we are making decisions on how to hold people accountable.
You
That's
talk
so
about
harmful.
social justice.
Pause on babies being targeted who are trying to get services.
They have been
That's
shooting children in the
really
head. They have
horrendous. Yeah.
sniped children in the head. I mean, there have been doctors in the last remaining medical facilities in Gaza who have been testifying about they've never seen so many headshots and body shots to the heart in children before ever in their lives. And the level of harm that's happening not only to the humans that are being shot, but the humans that are having to care for them and the families that are being, torn apart. And it just, yeah, it boggles the mind. So when you say, what do you care about and what do we want to talk about? I'm like, this is all my head is filled with all the time. And it just, yeah, it feels like this massive mountain avalanche of harm and destruction. And then I went and saw a friend of mine, Sophia, yesterday, who's from Cambodia, and she was sharing with me that her family is in Cambodia. And of course, Thailand is doing to Cambodia exactly what we're seeing happening in Palestine. They have decided they want to, yeah, they started bombing just last week. They started bombing Cambodia. They made up a story. So this is what's interesting. God, the playbook is so well written. So my friend Sophia was telling me about what her understanding of what happened. Her family is in Cambodia. She's originally from there. She moved here and is now a US citizen years ago, but of course and then her partner in this business is also from Cambodia and she's there right now. She went there like the day before the bombing started. So they're very worried about her being over there. But Thailand wants to take land from Cambodia. They see them as a weaker entity. Cambodia really doesn't have a military. They don't have any real means of defending themselves. And Thailand wants to rework the map. They want to steal land from Cambodia. So they created a scenario where, even though Cambodia doesn't have a military, created a scenario where the narrative is that Cambodia shot first, that Cambodia attacked first, and that Thailand is defending themselves. Sound familiar? And so they are bombing Cambodia indiscriminately, and they're also using chemical weapons. So not only are they bombing the humans that are being affected by the bombs directly, but they're using chemical weapons that is then going to poison the soil and the water and the air, which will then kill more Cambodians, secondarily from the original bombs being dropped. So all of it sounds exactly like what we've been seeing happen in occupied Palestine for the past 2 years and longer. And it just, yeah,
I'm curious about like what all of these major land grabs are for. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's just I don't have the knowledge base, so
yeah.
I'm asking out of curiosity. So if
Feels
any
like
of our
just power. Yeah,
I mean, it is power, but is it like the systems of trade? Because all of that is about to shift. I mean, we're seeing this, it's already in the beginnings of the shift towards like kind of this like digital economy that we're moving through. And I don't know what that looks like for products going through Cambodia or like what is the land grab need and the actual removing of human life
yeah,
for that land grab. Like I'm
yeah,
I'm just I don't know. I have no knowledge base of it. I'm trying to have an understanding of what is to gain. Because what is to gain if you're poisoning the water, if you're killing off the people there, and you take up the land is going to do what for you? What does the
right.
land do for you after you've
Yeah.
ruined
You've ruined it. Yeah, yeah, I know.
it? You know?
I
So
Yeah, I don't know with regard to Cambodia and Thailand. I am not educated enough to speak directly to it, but based on what I was hearing from Sophia, who's from there and whose family lives there still, they don't know. They don't have any they're like, why? Why do you need to rewrite this? We're living next to each other. We don't have Cambodia doesn't we don't have a military. We don't have there's really
yeah,
not a whole lot for you except it like you just to your point, if you want to grab this land and you want to take over this land because you want to make your map, your land stores that you say that you own bigger, then what's the point of ruining it before there's no logic to it, and that's why I say power, because to me that's the only thing the bigger our land grab. My partner and I started watching this show on Hulu called Sitting Bull, and it's a historical account of the indigenous leader named Sitting Bull. And it's going through the whole manifest destiny concept, and how the colonizers and settlers pushed into the West and decimated the indigenous populations. But all of it is just so fucking familiar, excuse my French. It's all the same goddamn thing. And all it is just about taking more and taking more and taking more. And who cares about the people that we're displacing and killing and wiping out? And I I mean, white supremacy is the thing that I always fall back on, but I don't know what else to say
Capitalism.
to it. It's
Those are the things. White supremacy and capitalism keeps on pushing this very abusive agenda.
yeah,
We're seeing that literally globally sweeping across the land as there's more and more people who are disenfranchised from being able to access the resources that they need to just be living, to live.
right. Just want to live. Just leave them alone. And that's exactly what Sophia said to me yesterday. Just leave us alone. We're not hurting you. We're not harming you. We don't want anything to do with. We just want to live in peace. We just want to be next to you and live in peace. And you've said that, and yeah, I'm preaching to the choir. I know, and I know I sound exasperated, like I just
That
found
is
this out, and I didn't. I just you're getting all my pent up frustration and just the similarities behind all of this stuff. When will humanity learn? And it's when people wonder why, when white people wonder why they're all of a sudden waking up, and I'm one of those people, all of a sudden waking up to just the insidiousness of whiteness and how it destroys everything it touches, including the people that look like me. It's like, how many examples do you need to see the patterns? I mean, the patterns are so clear, Russia to Ukraine, all of it, everything is just so clear. and
a
and
lot of
yeah.
a lot of it is attributed to how my understanding of like anti-blackness. And when we're talking about
Oh,
anti, we're not just talking about people, who, well, we all origin from the African continent,
yeah.
but people who are identified as darker hue, to what we were speaking about at the beginning of this conversation. If anybody from Palestine area came over here, they would
Mhm.
all be considered lighter hue human beings anyway.
Yeah.
But if there is this idea of you are lesser than me because your skin is browner than mine, or because your hair is coarser than mine, and that gives me the right to power over and lord over you because I have a closer proximity to whiteness, when
Mm.
it really is that folks want to be existing in their autonomy in the same way that folks who are white identified want to exist in their autonomy and power and leadership. And to your point, the leave us alone is real. Like, if you just leave
Oh,
us
yeah.
and let us be, it is real. And that's enough. That's what peace looks like. You know what I mean? And stop splitting justice, right? Stop favoring this idea of whiteness, this idea of capitalism, this idea of proximity to something that has been very destructive throughout the history of what we understand as like human existence.
It is the scourge. It is
Mm.
absolutely the scourge. If you whittle down, I would be willing to say, if you whittle down every conflict, if you whittle down I mean, we're seeing it on the continent in so many different countries that are saying no, no more. You are the cancer to our land, and we want you off. And we will do whatever we need to do to get you to leave, because you just need to leave us the fuck alone. And and
Yes.
I just it is I'm so grateful that you and I have the relationship that we have, and that you are willing to sit here and listen to me rage about this stuff that's so obvious to you, because I know it, but when I see it over and over again being played out, and then I have conversations with other people that look like me that are clueless. I mean, I know I was clueless for a lot of years, so I'm not saying that I'm any better than anyone else, but it's just so fucking obvious. I don't know why. other people won't.
If you're able to, it's obvious when you're able to see it.
Mm.
When you're paying attention to it, right? And you don't start doing that until you become impacted by it.
Right.
Right. Because if you're existing in your own peace, in your own leave me alone, because you've positioned yourself in that way, then it becomes so much more difficult for you to witness and understand and observe that other people are asking for the same privilege with which you exist in your life. And yes, this is real. And the other thing is that it's important to have these conversations, and it's important to have these conversations coming from you, because those of us who have been marginalized we are on the receiving end. So it gets to the point where it's like, when are y'all going to figure yourselves out and start having
We're gonna get our shit together. Yeah, because
figure it out.
You're just living.
We already know it. So we already we know we live it, we exist in it. So yes, there needs to be these more of these conversations, and people within their capacity, I have to say that, taking time to work through, to get through an understanding, and to be able to communicate to their community of people how you're experiencing and what it is that you're witnessing, so that folks can then become more aware.
Yeah. Well, I hope that some people listening to the sound of my voice might have learned at least one nugget that you want to take and expand on and open up. And, I'm learning every day. I continue to learn. I continue to put myself in the place of trying to understand better all of these things that have been right here all my life. And, and my head hasn't exploded yet, except for exasperation. So if I can do it, you can do it too. So
yeah, we all can do it. We all need to be doing it and continue to be aware of what's going on around us and how people are being impacted. 100%. Yes.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, as you move throughout your day, continue to ask yourself,
Why Do I Give a
Fuck is produced in collaboration with Johanna and Diane. Music by Norwegian musician Water. See you next time.